Is it tall enough? I don't think so. Hey, maybe I should just buy a tripod. One day I will. Okay, now it's like too tall. Alright. That was ridiculous. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited. I haven't done a book rec video in a while, like a specific book rec. I get a lot of questions, people asking me to recommend them a book. They want to get into reading. They see that I post about reading a lot, or that I just like obviously make these videos, and they're like, can you recommend me a book? Like I really want to get into it. And I try my best to recommend them some good books, but it's hard when you don't know that person, what they like and stuff. So I decided I'm just gonna do a video on a bunch of books that I have personally read and that I think would be great first reads if you're trying to get into reading. And even if you're not, these are really good books. Most of them, or like a good amount of them, are pretty popular, but if you haven't read them, then this is just a fun book rec video if you need some new recommendations, new reads. And I saw Haley Pham do a video like this. I don't know if it's the same type of book recs or the same idea, but she also said, I remember watching it and she was like, people asked me for book recommendations, so I thought it was a good idea. I had a few comments. I had my old dance teacher, Miss Tiff, shout out Miss Tiff. She commented, she said, asking for a friend to film a video kind of like this. So that's what I'm doing. If you want to get into reading, this is the right place for you. And even if you're already a reader and you want some book recs, there's some good ones in here. These are a bunch of books that I personally love. These will probably be books that I thought when I was picking these out, books that will be one, quick to get through, easy to read, won't be boring, and just like will get you through the book, because you don't want to read a book for the first time and get stuck a couple chapters in and not want to read it anymore. You need a good, fast-paced, entertaining, good story, good characters. So these are just very well-rounded books. I have in the romance and the thriller mystery genre, because I don't know what everyone likes, but I don't have any fantasy. The fantasy books that I've read, honestly, I don't think a first-time reader should read them because they're kind of confusing in the beginning and they're mostly boring, because in fantasy they're trying to like set up a whole new world, and it's like, for me at least, I wouldn't want to start with that, so I didn't do that. But if you do like fantasy, I just have only read maybe like 4 fantasy books, so I'm not gonna give any fantasy book recs, but I do have a good amount. I have a couple that I read on my Kindle that I'm going to talk about. So we're going to start on books that I don't have with me. Friends have borrowed them and they're on my Kindle, but we're going to start with the most obvious before I get into these ones, because I feel like I just have to get it out there. But Colleen Hoover, even if you're not a reader, I feel like you definitely know Colleen Hoover and her books, especially It Ends With Us. But she has hype for a reason. Her books are entertaining. They will keep you reading. They have an amazing character development, storylines, plots, and she just knows how to do it. So I think if you're starting to read and you want to read Colleen, but she has a lot of options and you see them all over, you don't know which one to start with. I personally, if you want a romance from Colleen, I think you should definitely read one, Ugly Love, or It Ends With Us. I know that they're the most hyped, and it's hard when you want to read a book and you don't want to read an overhyped one, because then it's like, I don't know why people are liking this. But trust me, I truly think that you should start with those two. Those are like my absolute favorites from her. I do like November 9th if you want to try that. That one just has like mixed reviews. For me it was amazing, but not many people like that. But I know majority of people loved It Ends With Us and Ugly Love. I'll explain what they're about. It Ends With Us, I literally read this before it got like super hyped. I read it over a year ago, but basically it's about a girl, her father passes away or something. She's moving to a new area. She meets this guy, he's a neurosurgeon. They end up connecting and stuff. He's a great guy, and then you get flashbacks of her when she was growing up and her first love back then. His name was Atlas, and how they met, how they connected, and how they went separate ways eventually. He comes back in the picture, and I always say, like, you think when that happens, like, that's gonna be the whole point of the book, like her trying to choose between Atlas and Ryle. That's just completely not what happens. She puts you in the eye of, I don't really know if I should say it because it'll give it away, because I went into it blind. I didn't know the trigger warnings with it, and I didn't know that it was about this. So I think you could check the trigger warnings if you want, but I personally went into it blind. I didn't know this was what it was about, so it was crazy. Like, if you read it, you know. Being in Lily's point of view, it's like you don't realize what situation you're in until it's like too late. And it's like Colleen does an amazing job of portraying the picture of what this book is about. So I'm not gonna give too much away, but I definitely think it's like an amazing read. Plus the second one is coming out, or like the sequel, whatever it is, I think October. I already pre-ordered it on Amazon, but it's called It Starts With Us. I think that's a really good one to start with. If not, Ugly Love is chef's freaking kiss. I love this book. I need to reread it. I read it on my Kindle, so I need to buy it. This is about Tate and Miles. Tate moves in with her brother. She's becoming a nurse or something. She's studying to become a nurse, and then Miles, Tate's brother's best friend, lives across the hall, so this is brother's best friend trope. Basically what happens is you get like a flashback when you get to Miles's point of view of something that happened in his past. You don't know what it is, but it kind of like leads up to it towards the end, which was like an anticipation part, which was really amazing, what like keeps you going in the book. But they kind of like strike up a deal, and then Miles is like, because of his past, he says this to Tate, and he's like, we can hook up we can do things, friends with benefits, but that's it. Like, I'm not gonna tell you anything about my life, like nothing about my past, and nothing can happen in the future, but like if you want to hook up, like we can agree to this. And she agrees to it. They hook up, they connect and hang out, and all of a sudden there's feelings involved, and it's hard, but then you realize why Miles said that, and it's just so good. So good. So if you want to start with Colleen, I definitely recommend those two to start with, and then you can go down a Colleen rabbit hole like I've done. There's so many good ones. I seriously recommend all of them, but Hopeless, Confess, November 9th, Regretting You, Heart Bones, like definitely just read maybe I guess the summaries of them and choose which one, but you will not be disappointed with Colleen. And then if you want a thriller, definitely read Verity. It's absolutely amazing. It's about this girl, I think her name is Lowen. She's an aspiring author, and this woman Verity, who is a very famous author, is trying to finish her series. Something happened, she got in an accident, she's bedridden, so her husband goes out and finds Lowen and it's like, she wants you to finish the book. So they let Lowen stay with them in their big house. Verity's bedridden upstairs, and Lowen goes through her manuscript of all of her old writings of the book so she can finish it, and like things are happening and creepy things happen, and every other chapter you get when Lowen is reading the manuscript, and it like unveils a lot of like messed up stuff. Crazy ending, amazing book. I definitely recommend. So I know that was a big Colleen rant, but you cannot go wrong with Colleen. I just want to start off with that so that we can get Colleen out of the way, because we know how I feel. But we're gonna start with the romance, and then at the end I'll show you, I think I have like 2 thrillers. So we're starting with Ellen Hildebrand. First of all, just the author. She writes a lot of her books, or I don't know if all of them, but like majority of them take place on Nantucket, so it's like a summer read, a beach read, and I feel like we're moving towards spring and summer, so I definitely recommend her books right now. I've only read like a handful of them, not all of them, but she is an amazing author. But this was one of the first books I read when I was personally getting back into reading, and it literally sparked something in me. I don't know what it was, but I just was so good. This is The Perfect Couple by Ellen Hildebrand. This is about a couple who is getting married on Nantucket. It's kind of like a mystery love story-ish. Okay, so the maid of honor ends up turning up dead the morning, I think it's the morning of, or the morning before the wedding or something like that, and you kind of go through a whole wedding party and families and stuff, and you kind of unveil what happened to her and how she died, and you find like connections to the families that you didn't know and the relationships and stuff, and it was just so good. Ellen writes so amazing. So this is if you want like kind of like a romance and a mystery in one. The only thing is the ending for me was a little underwhelming, but the story was just too good. I literally read this in like 2 days, so I highly recommend this. I highly recommend Ellen too if you want a fun little beach read. She has so many good books, but this one is like what got me back into reading, so definitely recommend. And then I have another, this one is 28 Summers. So this one I have a little mini version. This book is so underrated. I absolutely love this book. So this is about Mallory. She is like sick, and her son finds a number, and she's like, you need to call this number and tell him, I don't know if she says to tell him to come or something, tell him I'm sick, whatever. So the son calls, and it ends up being, his name is Jake, and Jake's wife is the front runner to become president or something like that. So he's like in the spotlight, and his son is like, I don't know why my mom knows this guy. And then it goes into flashbacks and 28 summers. So every summer Mallory and Jake would like kind of like secretly hang out. They would do the same thing every summer, but they never ended up dating. They never ended up being able to date, but you just see their relationship, and then it comes right back to the present time at the very end, and it's just like you see them again, but like the end is so sad, and I'm just like sobbing, but it's like you see their relationship and stuff. And I think this is such a good book. Highly recommend. I read this over the summer last summer. Oh, it was so good. I guess we could stay on the beach vibe. So this is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I read this book a while ago too. It's like 2 summers ago. It was another book when I started reading again. I read this and I fell in love with this book. So this is about Gus and January. So January, her father dies. Father leaves his beach house where she finds out that the father had an affair, a mistress or whatever, and that's where he stayed with her. So she goes there thinking she's just gonna clean it out, sell it, not stay there anymore. But she ends up going, and she finds that her next door neighbor is Gus. They are both writers. She's kind of in a block, so she stays there, and they end up speaking, and then they make up like this deal that they're gonna switch genres. So she is a romance writer, and I think he's just like fiction or something. I don't know what he is, but they end up saying, okay, by the end of the summer we're gonna switch genres. We're gonna see if we can write each other in a book. So they take each other on kind of like activities and things to like spark ideas for each other, and like they end up hanging out and connect. I don't know. It's so good. I really recommend this. It's a quick read. You will probably get through this so quick, and just like their conversations, the banter, the connection, and just like the setting too, like everything about it is just super fun and really cute, and I just love this book. So another very good one if you're looking for like a quick cute romance. If you're looking for another quick cute romance, Love Hypothesis. This one I would recommend if you want like kind of like a rom-com-y fake dating type of book. I don't think I would recommend this if you want more of like a serious relationship book. If you want a serious one, I would recommend like 28 Summers. But this one I literally read in a day. This was so good. It's a quick read, but basically it's about Olive, I believe her name is, and then Dr. Carlson. What is it? I think her friend ends up dating a guy she went like on like a date with, and to prove to her friend that she was like over him, she kissed Dr. Carlson. She's like in grad school, I believe, or something like that. She kisses him just because he's like right next to her, just like off the whim, like it happened. And then she realized it was a professor guy, not hers, but like a professor guy at like the college or whatever. But he is very mean, hates everyone, but he like sparks up a deal with her and was like, we could just like fake date, basically. It's fake dating. It's really, really good. Their conversations, him in general, like this is written so well, of like a guy who's like standoffish to everyone else but her. Like the author did such a good job not taking it too far, like taking him to be like you don't hate him for the way he acts, you know? Like it's kind of like attractive the way he does it. I don't know. Sometimes an author would make like a fake dating or like a guy who's just like so mean to everyone, like actually mean, where it's like you don't like him as a character. Like he is like the best, and their relationship is like so good, and it's like the tension between them is so good. This is a really good one. If you want like a very cute, fast romance, highly recommend. I have Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This one I read, I think like sometime last year. Alright, this is dual point of view. I love dual point of view. I feel like that's just like being able to see both point of views and how they're both feeling is like the best. But this is dual. Bree moves away from her town for a reason. She goes to a small town just to stay there for a little, and she ends up like meeting all of the people around. I love like the trope of like leaving your hometown to another little small town. Like I think it's cute, but she does that. She ends up meeting this guy named Archer, who I think he is mute. Something happened in the past. Okay, so he's mute, but he does like sign language, and she knows sign language from like another, I don't know how she knows it, but she ends up knowing sign language, and then they end up like being able to connect on that level because he doesn't like speak to anyone. He is very like standoffish. He does another one of those, but like he, for big reasons you find out, but they end up connecting, and it's like, I don't know, it's really, really good. It's written really well, and I like their connection, and I like how he treats her. I think he's just like a really sweet guy, but like on the exterior he's like really like heavy and mean looking and stuff, but like on the interior he's like a really sweet guy. He just needed someone like Bree to like bring it out of him. And then at the end you get like this whole little, not plot twist, but like a little flashback of what happened to him, and it's like crazy. But this book is just really good. It's really wholesome. It's a really great story. I think if you want a good romance, I think this is another really good one you could start with. Another great one. I couldn't not put this in this video. I think you guys can tell me if you think it's been too much or I've talked about it too many times to shut up, but I just like, how can I do a recommendation video if you want to start reading and not include this? So Love in Other Words, Christina Lauren. If you haven't heard me talk about this 100 billion times, then you are new here. So if you are, here we go. If you want to read a romance and you want to fall in love with the characters and the story, and wow, so good. Okay, this is about Macy and Elliot. They are alright, do you see the smile on my face? Childhood friends to lovers. You get both timelines. So you get them when they met when they were younger. Macy's mother died and her father wanted to keep the traditions that her mom wanted, so he buys them a house right next to Elliot's family's house, and they meet when they were very young, and they both have a bond over reading. He is a big reader. He's like a little nerd, and it is so cute. And you see them like experience their first together and like connect on like a way that like is just like unbelievable. So you see them connecting in like every other chapter. It's like then and now. So like then you see them connecting, and then now 11 years later they're no longer speaking, and you don't know why until the end of the book. But she ends up seeing him again, and then you see them like reconnecting and talking and trying to get each other's lives again, and then he has no idea why she stopped talking to him for 11 years, and it's just like, he's perfect. Elliot is perfect. I think this book is so deeply phenomenal. Read this book. I think you need to read it. So it's really good. It's like childhood friends to lovers. It's second chance at love. It's written so well. Their just connection is like unlike any other, and I've read this twice now. It's like my comfort book. If you need like a warm book, read this one. I have one more that's on my Kindle. This one is kind of controversial to many people, but I think it's really good. You just have to like the trope that it is, which is age gap, big age gap. But I personally love it. I don't know, I think the way that it was written was really well, and it's Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. I read this on my Kindle, but if you want a spicier, really good romance, quick read, but also like interesting, because the trope is like to some people. It's this girl, I forgot their name, but she and her boyfriend move in with his father because they need a house to stay at or whatever, and the boyfriend is like a horrible boyfriend. He's never home, leaves her there. She he sucks. So she ends up hanging out with the dad because that's all. She has no friends. She's like with the dad all the time, and you get dual point of view in both points of view. So you do see the dad's point of view, but the dad ends up being this guy that she met at a movie theater on her birthday that she spent alone because her boyfriend was not with her or was gonna pick her up or something. I don't know, something happened and she ended up with the guy that ended up being the dad. So she moves in and she's like, oh my god, like that's the guy from the movie theater. So they end up talking and then she's always with him, so they end up connecting. And I think that's where it's like you can either draw the line where like for me it was fine for them to do that, like they knew the age, they knew boundaries, and then where it's like, should you be together because you're that old? But I didn't see that part. I don't know, I thought the age gap was fine and done well, where it wasn't like creepy in my eyes, but for some people they can't do age gaps like that. So that's where you kind of have to like, can I read this? I think it's good, but if you don't, age gaps throw you off and give you like the ick, don't read it. You'll hate it because it's like he's I think 32 and I think she just turned 19, so it's a big one. But it was so good. You could try it. So those are the romance ones that I recommend starting with if you want to dip into romance reading. But now I have 2 thrillers. I don't read too many thrillers. I started off when I was reading in like mystery thriller world, and then I got into romance, and now I'm just like a big contemporary romance girl. I've dipped into fantasy like a little bit. It's not my favorite, but like once I'm in the mood for it, I'll read it. And then thrillers more in the beginning. So I don't have too many recommendations, but the ones that I've read and like I really like. So I do recommend these like a lot if people ever want a good thriller, but I have these 2. Okay, so I've Gone Girl. I call her Gillian Flynn. I think it's Jillian, but it's this. If you haven't watched the movie already, definitely read the book before the movie. The movie's pretty good, but I think you should read the book first. It's really, really good. It'll keep you on your toes. This is about this guy whose wife goes missing one day, and the house is like in a crazy disarray. It's messed up. Calls the cops, and it's like, my wife is missing, and he becomes the main suspect. So they're trying to like not try to pin it on him, but like it looks like he did it. And then you get kind of like other chapters in the wife that went missing's point of view, and in her diary she would like write stuff about the marriage, and you can see how the insides of the marriage is in her point of view. And it's like, I don't know, but this book is messed up. You get to the end, it's like plot twist after plot twist, and it's so good. So the last one I have is A Silent Patient. I've recommended this many a times too, but this one is really good. When the plot twist comes in this one, it's like you're just mind blown. You're like, how did he trick me this hard? This is about a woman who one day just like literally shoots her husband in the face and doesn't speak ever again. So she's in like kind of like a psych ward type of place, and she doesn't speak, literally no words. So then this guy, he's a psychotherapist or something, gets a job there kind of, and tries to say like, I can get her to speak. So you get that, you get like flashbacks of her. She has a diary, so you get kind of like her and her husband kind of, but you get like all of it together. And it's just like, I tried to guess why she wasn't speaking and all of this stuff, and it's like when you get to that point, if you didn't guess it, I thought it was hard to guess, but some people can guess it. But when you get there, it's literally like mind-blowing. It's so good. I highly recommend. This is a really, really good one. I also heard he has another book that's really good, but I did not get to it. I forgot what it's called. Maidens? Something like that. But this one, if you want another good thriller, definitely recommend. Those are all of the books that I recommend if you want to try to get into reading. Let me know if you end up reading any of these, which ones you pick. Thank you for watching. Let me know if this was helpful for any of you guys. I will see you hopefully in the next one. Bye!